Just a couple weeks ago, Disney Cruise Line made a very odd decision as they purchased a half-built cruise ship, or a little over halfway built. But why did they do that instead of just building their own? Welcome everyone to the channel. If you're new, my name is Brandon, and if you like cruise news, cruise vlogs, and ship tours, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button down below and hit that notification bell to be notified every time we upload a new video. Anyways, right into today's video. So over the last several years, Dream Cruises is a Asian cruise line owned by the parent company Genting, or Genting Hong Kong, and they've been in some trouble ever since the COVID shutdown. And over the last few years and leading into early 2022, they did finally file for bankruptcy, and they were luckily able to sell off several of their ships, but one still remained, and that is the Global Dream. Well, the Global class cruise ship that was being built for Dream Cruises. This thing was 208,000 tons. This was a behemoth of a ship. Still not anything close to the Oasis class, but one of the closest ships to ever get to that size. But since the parent company of that cruise line filed for bankruptcy, they also owned the shipyard. And, of course, they owned the ship as well, or they were in the process of building that ship. It was kind of up in the air, like, what is going to happen to this ship? And there is even a second one. There was even a Global Dream 2 that is likely going to be scrapped at this point just because it was only just a few blocks, if maybe even one at that. So that one is extremely early on in the development process or the construction process. So that one was likely to be scrapped, but the Global Dream itself is about 75% finished when all of this went on. So fast forwarding to today, towards the end of 2022, we got the news that Disney Cruise Line, of all people, has purchased the Global Dream. With Disney Cruise Line, they've always had that idea in their minds. All their ships kind of have the same look, even when comparing the Magic class to the Dream class. The Dream class looks, in a sense, almost like a larger and more modernized version of those original two ships, the Magic and the Wonder. They've always gone with that dual smokestack design, just trying to replicate those classic ocean liners, which they have always done a great job of doing. Disney cruise ships are some of the most beautiful ships out at sea, in my opinion at least. They are very, very nice ships. And with Disney Cruise Line, they don't care about the size of the ship. They would even be willing to make a ship smaller just to make sure that their idea and what they wanted to do fits. And unlike most other cruise lines, Disney doesn't really have much of a presence over in the Asia cruise market right now. Carnival really is the only one, and they've slowly been pulling out ever since COVID, with Costa Cruise Lines kind of struggling here and there. They're moving a lot of their ships either out of Asia completely, or they are moving out of Asia completely, but they are moving in ships from an entirely new joint venture cruise line that's going to be dedicated to the Asian market. But then you have Royal Caribbean that has Spectrum of the Seas that was dedicated exactly for the Asian cruise market. Wonder of the Seas was even supposed to be for China at one point up until COVID hit, and then they decided to pull her into the United States instead. And then Norwegian no longer has a dedicated Asia ship, but they do have a presence over there as they've been putting Norwegian Sun, and I believe even the Jade they're supposed to be there at one point. I could be wrong. I know it's one of the Jewel class, but they do have one or even two ships over there in Asia just to make up for that market, as despite popular belief, the Joy was actually really popular over in China. It was that the demand for Alaska following the Norwegian Bliss was so high that it was actually worth it for them to convert the ship to Americanize it, basically, and bring it over into the U.S. for Alaska cruises during the summer. Like I mentioned with the Norwegian Joy, they had to refurbish that ship and put about $50 million into it just to make it up to par with an American, or pretty much Americanize that ship. Because all of these ships that are dedicated to this Asian and China cruise market, they have to be specifically built for these markets because of how different cruising is over there. Gambling is a lot more popular over there, and most people over in China, they don't sit around by the pool all day when they go on cruises, and that's really not a thing. It's usually, it's an American thing. It's things that people do even over in Europe. But when you look at the Norwegian Joy, instead of a pool deck, there was a park up there. To get a sense, that's just how different cruising is over there. And this ship, being from an Asian cruise line, it was already being built and kind of shaped towards that market. And when Disney Cruise Line purchased this ship, they even said they don't plan on putting this in the United States. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't put it in Europe either. With the ship in the state that it's in, it's probably most likely going to go over into the Asian cruise market. So with Disney wanting to get into the Asian cruise market like they do, they picked up this ship for basically pennies of what it was worth. Well over $1 billion to build for Dream Cruises. I believe the price tag was a little over maybe 1.5 billion or so. And Disney Cruise Line paid a total of 41 million for this. That's it. Now, of course, this ship is going to take a lot of money for them, several $100 million just to get this ship up and running to their standards and beyond that to where they can officially sail the ship. But the fact that they picked up this massive ship for only $41 million is incredible. That is unheard of a ship that cheap basically in these days, and especially that size. I mean, that's maybe 2 to 3% of the ship's actual value. So they picked up this ship for basically pennies on the dollar and are able to basically pick up and run with it. Now, to get it up to Disney standards, it is going to take a lot of work. Like I mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be spending well over $500 million just to even get this up and running, really. I think the biggest challenge for this, and I think what concerns most people, is that Disney likes to build their own original concepts, and they like to do their own engineering work and what they call Imagineers with their engineering team. But this ship is 75% done, so they kind of have to work with what they have, which is probably one of the bigger challenges of building and finishing this ship. And I think that's what's going to raise a lot of concerns. But with it being focused towards that Asia cruise market, I think they have enough. Everything is moving in the right direction. Now it's a matter of bringing it up to the Disney standard, basically Disneyfying it or Disneyizing it, however you want to call it. But I definitely think the Imagineers can do it. It's just going to be challenging, and it's just something that's very weird and not Disney-like to be picking up something that's halfway finished and then running with it. Disney's one of those companies that they have to touch every little bit of it as long as they can until it's completely finished. So with them only spending a little over $40 million just to purchase the ship, and then they're probably going to be a total of maybe $500 million to $600 million, maybe a little bit more. But that's probably one of the lowest risks they could have taken to try to get into that cruise market. That also eliminates them from having to use Disney Treasure or Disney whatever it is that comes out in 2025, that third Triton class ship or Wish class. That eliminates them from having to use that third ship to try to go into that Asian market, which is something I personally thought they were going to do. As I thought either Treasure or that third ship were going to go over to China to try to get into that market because it is becoming so popular. I think the biggest concern for most people, and even myself, is that this just doesn't look like a Disney ship. Even the Disney renderings of it where they have turned it into a Disney ship, it just doesn't look or feel like a Disney ship. It just looks like, it still looks just as bad as the original Global Dream. Now, of course, I could definitely be wrong. I've been proven wrong before by not liking a rendering of a cruise ship before. The Celebrity Edge class is a prime example. That was probably one of the ugliest renderings of a ship to me. I did not like it. I didn't really like it at all. And after the ship started coming out, and even after seeing all three of the current ones in person, because there's more coming out, but after seeing some of those in person and everything, they are honestly some of my favorite ship designs. The Edge class is a beautiful class of cruise ship. Those are some beautiful ships. So I could be wrong, but as of right now, I'm not a big fan of the rendering of it. And I still, even with them adding the funnels, adding, technically it's a navy blue hull, and having, all the Disney branding and everything on it, it just doesn't feel like a Disney ship to me. And I think that's what the main concern with a lot of people are, especially like big time Disney fans and Disney cruisers, is that it just doesn't seem like a Disney ship. And it's not really a Disney thing to do, to purchase a half-finished cruise ship or a half-finished project at that, just to say, all right, let's finish the last like 10% of it and call it our own. That's not something that Disney does. The reason they did it is because it's going to be such a low-risk project, or at least we hope it is. As long as, they're only going to be spending a few $100 million, which I say only, compared to the $1.5 billion price tag of the actual thing, spending $600 million or so on top of the 41 it cost to purchase seems pretty low risk to me. One of the big things I am excited about, and one of my biggest concerns originally, is that the Global Dream, before Disney took over, was supposed to have 9,000 passengers on board with 2,200 crew. That's a lot of people on a single cruise ship. And this thing is smaller, considerably smaller than the Oasis class and the Wonder of the Seas, who hold around 6,000 to, I think, Wonder is just shy of 7,000. Even the Icon of the Seas has almost similar specs as far as how many people are on board or how many passengers it can hold. We're looking about 8,000 to 9,000 for Icon of the Seas, which is pretty much 40,000 tons larger than the Global Dream. But Disney did say that they do plan on only having about 6,000 passengers on board and 2,300 crew. So about 100 crew more than originally planned for Global Dream, and 3,000 passengers less. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm very glad that Disney is doing that, because that is just way too many people to have on a cruise ship. And one of the weirdest design choices as well, or going along with those weird design choices, is that Disney, of course, have always done the dual funnels or the dual smokestacks, where the front one has obviously always been fake, where we have, I think the Magic class have like the teen club in there, and there's, I believe it's just a lounge on the Dream class. On the Disney Wish, it's actually a room, where it's like a loft suite, basically. So they've always found something to do up in that front smokestack, but then the rear has always been the fully functioning one. With that split structure, it's kind of hard to do something like that. And of course, we are going to have the fully functioning one in the rear, kind of where the original smokestack is going to be. But they've added an additional 4 on top of those 2 functioning ones. There's going to be 6 smokestacks on this thing, or 6 funnels, basically. I'm kind of interested to see how large the other 4 are, and they kind of I feel like they would take up some deck space. So they seem like they'd be kind of really just in a bad spot. I don't know really what they would do with it. I'm wondering if they would maybe put some suites in there like they did with the Wish, or that's kind of in the middle of the pool deck though. So maybe, maybe there's just like a bar at the bottom. Maybe it's a lounge. Who knows what they're going to do? It's just very weird that on a design choice, which the ship itself is just an overall weird design choice, and it's an ugly design choice. The Disney rendering of it, it's definitely different than what the original Global Dream was going to look like. So Disney clearly made a lot of changes to it, but it still looks like a very odd design. But I'm interested to see what they do with those additional smokestacks. Going with 6 seemed a little weird to me. I was kind of curious on what they were going to do. I'm, going with 4 probably would have made more sense, but 6 is a lot. But overall, the point of this video is why they did this. Honestly, I think it's just because Disney wanted to get into the Asian cruise market and start to kind of capitalize on a growing market, and that's been there. Although ever since COVID, it has, of course, had its weaknesses and has kind of like shown signs of vulnerability being over there and putting ships over there. Spectrum of the Seas has actually been sailing out of Singapore primarily, like up until recently. But not a lot of ships are sailing out of China anymore. But as things start to ramp up over the next couple of years, at least what we hope is that that's a pretty big market to capitalize on. If they have a really low risk that they are putting over there, I mean, they're not going to be paying more than $1 billion out of pocket to build this ship, or at least to finish it. So I think to capitalize on the market that they're looking to get into and they've been interested in over the last couple of years, like most cruise lines, this is probably one of the lowest risks they could have taken. Especially with a ship this size, it's as long as it's filling up and as long as they are successful in what they were looking to do with it, their return on investment would probably turn around, maybe not immediately, but it would be pretty quick compared to a normal cruise ship. It's a very interesting choice that they've made in what they're trying to do, and I'm personally not sure, and I'm very hesitant about it, and I'm still kind of shocked that they did it in the first place. Just Disney being Disney doesn't seem like a Disney move, and I think a lot of Disney fans will say that it's not a Disney move to purchase something that's halfway finished. But I think if that's their goal, is to capitalize on the Asia cruise market, that's probably the best way they could have done it. And that with the ship being already 75% built and already tailored towards that market, they're kind of already halfway in the right direction. All they have to do is just make it a Disney product. They have to add all of the Disney design choices. They have to make their design changes to make sure it is Disney-fied, basically, and turn into a true Disney ship. So I think if they're looking to separate that market from everything else, separate it from the Magic, Dream, and the Triton classes, this ship is just going to be one of a kind. Of course, since the second one isn't coming anymore, it was canceled and it's been scrapped. This is going to be a one of a kind ship, and I think Disney may even treat it like that, as that, hey, this is our Asia ship. That's why it's so different than the rest of them. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Let me know what your thoughts are on this ship down below. I personally am just waiting to see what it turns out to be like. The ship is slated to come out in 2025 as long as everything continues going well for it and everything proceeds as normal. But as of right now, Disney is anticipating this coming out in 2025 along with the third Triton class, which the Triton class is the Wish, the Treasure, and this third ship. So let me know what your thoughts are on it down below. Do you think this was a very good move for Disney? Do you think it was a bad move? Do you like that Disney made this move? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. And that will be all for today's video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you don't already and you want to follow along videos like this. We also have cruise vlogs coming from Symphony of the Seas, coming every Monday and Friday, along with other videos like Ship Spotting Plugged In on Wednesdays and other days throughout the week. Thank you again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.